In this video, you will learn how to add and edit parameters and how to set up inputs and outputs for widgets. Let's say you want to set up a number of threads you want to use for Salmon at the start widget. Currently, both Salmon widgets have the option to set the threads, but you have to manually put in the value you want, and these values could be different from each other. To keep things consistent in terms of threads used for the workflow, let's create the threads parameter from scratch. Go to the Start Widget's definition window by right-clicking and selecting Edit Widget, and then click on the Parameters tab. To make this new parameter, let's call it something like Threads. Threads are usually integer values, so let's select the integer type. This option is not read into the Start Widget script, so let's leave the flag, argument, and environmental value options unchecked. Set the label to something like number of threads to display in the widget's entries section. This could be something that is optional, but for this case you can make this parameter required, so we will leave the optional checkbox alone. Once you are ready to add this parameter, you can click on the plus sign add button on the bottom right corner here, and you will see it listed at the bottom. Now that the threads parameter has been added, what if you want to edit the parameter? More specifically, what if you want to set the default number of threads to something like 4? First, click on the parameter you want to edit, and you can see the parameter's settings already listed at the bottom. To make the change, click on Default and type in 4 here. To add the change, click on the plus sign add button again while you have the parameter you want to edit highlighted in blue. You can see now that the threads parameter has a default value of 4. There could be a scenario where you want to remove a parameter, like if you found yourself with a duplicate parameter already listed, or a parameter you don't need anymore. Let's say I have this parameter named junk that is just junk. It's added, but I want it gone. Like editing it, I first need to click on the parameter, then I click on the red X button next to the add button to delete it. After doing that, the junk parameter is now no longer listed. Now that you have the threads parameter in the start widget, you will need to set it as an output for other widgets to receive the value. Click on the Outputs tab and add the thread's name to the name option here, keeping it as a string str. Then click on the Add button to add it. It is important that the output name matches the parameter name, or else the values for the threads from the parameter entry won't be sent properly to the other widgets. The Start widget is now set up to have threads as an entry that can be outputted. The most important part is to save the changes to the widget. Let's click Save to change your changes and reload the workflow. If you click on the Start widget again, you will now see the threads entry with the default value you set earlier. And if you click on the signals, you will find the threads output ready. So before you can connect the new threads entry from the Start widget to the Salmon widgets, the thread parameters on those Salmon widgets need to be set as one of the widget's inputs. If you try to connect the Start widget to the Salmon index widget, you see there is no threads input available on the Salmon index for the Start widget to connect to. Also, if you check the Salmon index inputs tab in its widget definition window, you can see there is no threads option listed. Doing a quick check on the Salmon quant widget as well, you can see there is no threads option listed as well. To set the threads parameter as an input for the Salmon index widget, go back to its widget definition window and check the parameters tab. You can see there is a parameter called nThreads that represents the threads entry in the widget. Let's copy that name and add it to the input section. Save the widget and reload the workflow. Then do the same to the quant widget. At this point, both widgets now have threads set as inputs. Let's now connect the start widget to both Salmon widgets. To make sure the Salmon widgets execute once they receive the threads value from the start widget, open the Salmon index widget first. On the bottom right corner of the window, click on the Select Triggers dropdown, then select the end threads trigger you just set as an input. Do the same to the Salmon quant widget. Once the triggers are set, proceed to connect the start widget with the Salmon widgets for the threads. Let's see if the threads parameter and new connections between the widgets work. Open the start widget and click on test mode and run the start widget. This will pass the values from the start widget into the other widgets without executing any of the widgets. After that, if you open up both widgets, you now see the threads value you set in the start widget are now sent to the Salmon widgets properly. To conclude this video, these are the ways to edit and set up parameters used when running these widgets. Thanks for watching.